Hello everyone, Kieran from Speaking Spurs, talking you today about Antonio Conte's press conference in the build-up to the game against Leeds on Saturday at Elland Road, which is a 12:30 kickoff. So this was an interesting press conference. Obviously, it was heavily dominated by his answers to questions from the Burnley game, which didn't fill us with much confidence, left us feeling like, are we going to have a manager? Obviously needs talks with the club, is the impression we got from that. And many of us were wondering if he was going to walk away from the job or force Tottenham's hand to fire him, which obviously hasn't happened, as you will see from what comes out. But before we get into the press conference, let's just have a little look at the form of Tottenham and Leeds United at this stage. So both teams have actually lost 4 of their last 5 games in the Premier League, which is dreadful form. And if you look at the last 6 games, so Leeds in their very last game lost 6-0 to Liverpool. They lost 4-2 to Manchester United, lost 3-0 to Everton. They drew 3-3 with Aston Villa. They lost 1-0 to Newcastle, and they beat West Ham 3-2. Now that for them is all Premier League games. In our last 6, one of those was a FA Cup tie. So I will go for our last 6. We've lost 1-0 to Burnley, beat the holders Man City 3-2, lost 2-0 to Wolves, lost 3-2 to Southampton, beat Brighton 3-1 in that FA Cup 4th round tie, and lost 2-0 to Chelsea, with obviously 2 more defeats thrown in there against Chelsea in the Cup. So the form of both teams is pretty poor at the moment. And then if we look at the table, because of this, we are currently now sitting 8th on 24 games, where in 4th place, Manchester United have played 26 and have 46 points. We're on 39. So, 44 over 2, whatever. We can end up on 45 points. So we'd be 1 point behind Manchester United. However, Arsenal currently occupy 5th spot on 45 points and have also played 24. So they are 6 points ahead of us with 2 games in hand. They can leapfrog their way into the top 4. They can go above Chelsea, who are on 50 points, but Chelsea have a game in hand themselves. So that's the situation we're in at the moment. Wolves are 7th, 25 games played on 40 points. It's getting really tight in and around there at the moment. It's quite scary, the fact that we're playing ourselves quickly out of this top 4 race. But look, that's enough of that. Let's go into the press conference from today. So, first question obviously has nothing to do with Leeds. Were you close to resigning this week? His response, no, but I think my words were very, very clear. I said that it's not normal in the last 5 games to lose 4 games. When happens this type of situation, for sure, you have to refresh, no? To start to make an evaluation, why it happened, and try to find the solution to try and find an answer. I think this is normal also because I'm not used to losing in this way when I was a player, when I was coach. For sure, this type of situation hurts me a lot, and I hope also my players and also the club. Next question, have you considered leaving? I think, and he didn't actually say no to this one, I think that in this moment, the best solution for us is to continue to work very hard. And I think the work is the only way to try to give satisfaction to our fans, to give satisfaction to the club. It is important to be focused, I repeat, on the present. It is many, many times that I repeat always the same things. We need time, we need patience. The club is the first to know which our real situation, and the club confirmed to me they know which is the reality. The club is very happy about my work, about what we are doing with my staff. The change that we brought in these 4 months in this club, in the training ground, in this environment. I'm sure the club is appreciating a lot what we are doing, but the problem is I am a perfectionist and I know very well the improvement that my work will bring in the future. Now that obviously alludes to the fact that after the Burnley game, yes, he was very emotional, even though he said he wasn't. But has he kind of dropped an inkling that he could be here for longer than we think? Obviously, he signed a short contract, but he said that his work will help improve in the future. Now, obviously, if another manager comes in, they're going to have their own way of working, so that could possibly undo the work he's done. So is that him hinting he could stay? At the same time, I'm a person that I want to reach a result quickly, and when I lose, I don't stay so happy. I think maybe to be in this way brought me the success in my career before as a player and as a coach. Yes, of course it will. Winning mentality, you don't take no for an answer. It's a die-hard attitude, and if you can get that through to the Spurs players, brilliant. Next question. What do you need for it to be perfect? First of all, we have to continue to work very hard in the present and for the rest of the season, because don't forget, we're still playing a season. The players and I and the club wants the best position possible in the league. Now, the reason that's important not to look at the future, in my opinion, is yes, we are still currently playing this season, and where we finish in the league will highly depend on the sort of players we can attract to the club. So there's no point in having a vision for the summer of what we need and what we want, because we may have to set more realistic targets in terms of the players that can be brought in the summer. And also, some of these players in the squad that maybe haven't hit the ground running yet under Conte, the longer you work with these players, and he really believes he can improve every player. So the longer they work under Conte, the more the likelihood is these players are going to develop into better players, people suited to his system, and then that changes the possibility of the players you need to bring in. So yeah. For us now, it is important to be focused on the present, because we have to try to get the best, because I repeat, we deserve for the work we're doing, for the effort we're doing. I think we deserve much more than the last period. Now it's important to try to put a basis, a good foundation, and for these 4 months, try to get the best results until the end of the season, and then we'll see. So there you go. He's basically saying the work they're doing on the training field behind the scenes does not reflect the results that we're getting. And I don't think any of us are doubting that they're working hard. I think there's a massive mentality issue when it comes to the players being on that pitch. I don't think they go into each game feeling like we're going to win. And that is a massive, massive issue. We need to get that mentality breathing through the players, that we can go out there and beat anyone, especially after a win against Manchester City. You need them to go, right, we've just, we didn't smash them because they had the majority of the possession, but we executed a plan very well, and they couldn't really respond to it as Manchester City. We tactically outclassed Pep Guardiola and, hundreds of millions worth of players. So, yeah, that mentality, it still isn't quite setting in. Then the team news was asked about, what's the latest on Rodrigo Bentancur? Unfortunately, he's not available for tomorrow's game because he had a problem in his ankle. I don't think this is a serious problem, and I hope to see him in the team very soon, but for sure, tomorrow he's not available. So initially, there were rumours going around that he could be out for 3 weeks. Conte he's not very good at really letting on how long players are going to be out for. So when he says not long, that could be anything. Then they asked about Oliver Skipp. He said he's another problem. I hope the medical department can help me. Skipp now is 1 month that he's missing. It's the same for Tanganga, and I don't want to put pressure on the medical department, but for sure they have to help me to try and solve the situation. And I think it's evident that we need Skipp. If any of you watched my last video, you may have seen my little rant about how much we depend on Skippy. Finally, we're talking about the Leeds game. Are you expecting an open game against Leeds? A tough game because it's not a good period for them or us. They're fighting for the relegation zone, and we want to try to stop this series of defeats. I remember very well my first game against Leeds. We were losing 1-0, and the first half they deserved to win. Second half, we played a good game and won 2-1. The atmosphere will be very hard, tough game, but at the same time we have to make experience about the last game against Burnley to try to understand why we lost the game. You called for patience from the fans, but do your comments this week show that you've started to lose yours already? He said, for sure when you lose a game, I'm not the person to have dinner with. You understand? I'm not the right person. When I lose a game, my mood is very bad. I prefer to stay alone. I prefer to leave the defeat, stay alone, and metabolise the defeat. For sure, I need a day to recover, at least. It's me, you understand? I don't like to lose. If you ask me what I hate in life, it's to lose games. My mentality is to prepare myself, to prepare my players, my team, and to avoid this type of situation because I suffer. There are many coaches that don't suffer. Sometimes I envy this person because I wanted to be a little bit soft, but at the same time, to be this way makes a person that in his career I won before as a player and then as a coach. For sure, when I lose, if you expect that I am happy or come to a press conference and laugh. I am not this person. I'm sorry if I show my disappointment, because maybe it would be good to keep this inside and not show my emotion. I am an honest person. It's difficult for me to lie and hide the truth. And for this reason, sometimes after a loss, my mood is not top. Sorry for this, but I am this. So there you go. That really backs up the fact that the reaction after Burnley, although there was a lot of truth in what he was saying, it was maybe a slightly exaggerated emotional response. So I think a lot of what he said, he really wanted to get across, and he meant it. But I think maybe with the emotion, it made it come across a lot sterner, as if it was a massive, massive problem that made him consider his future. But actually, he was just expressing the fact that we need to have a conversation and things need to change in terms of results on the pitch and a few things going on behind the scenes. So can you allay their fears and that you have... So can you allay their fears and that you do have the patience in this process? For me, it's a fantastic experience. It's an experience for sure more difficult than the past. When I start my career, I had a difficult situation with Arezzo and Atalanta. I started my career from low, not at the top. I arrived at the top. I have the right experience to face every experience. Now, that is the comment in this interview that actually kept me happy, because he's saying that he feels like he can deal with this situation and it's not beyond him. He's not a snobby elite level manager. He is willing to do the work. Here is a great experience because you have to build from the foundations, and on one hand it could be very good and also to make me not happy, but to be totally involved in this to build a new structure, a strong structure. On the other hand, for sure, there is the will also to have a situation already made, already ready to fight to win, but it's okay. I repeat, I like to work. I'm enjoying my time in Tottenham, and I'm showing to enjoy this time in Tottenham, especially when I show the disappointment after a defeat, because it means I felt this commitment for the club. Basically, he's saying that he gets angry because he cares. Others can think, yeah, we win, tomorrow we lose, one day we have to go, and he doesn't care. No, I want to leave something important for this club. Sometimes I'm very clear with my emotion and when I show my emotion. How did the players react on the trip back after your comments? A reaction? My reaction has to be to work. The reaction of the players has to be to work. We have to stay in silence, no reaction, just work. So the players weren't taken aback. The players need to be angry for the situation. I stop. Don't have reaction. Not positive or negative. They have to be angry the same way I am angry, then stop. I mean, that comment, I think the problem is because of his broken English and lack of terms sometimes, that kind of almost didn't make sense. But he's basically saying they're allowed to be angry about the situation, but all they now have to do is just work. And that's it. Did you speak to Daniel Levy? Yes, I spoke with Daniel. I repeat, sometimes I don't like that someone tried to create problems between me and the club, because this is not true. Believe me, this is not the truth. I don't think it's people trying to create problems between him and the club. We know the media like to run with a story and drum things up more. But after his interview, after Burnley, of course, these were the conversations that we're going to have. And I don't think people are trying to make out something there's not. I think he just got a bit on the defensive there. He essentially just went on to say that he wants to help the club in every single aspect. Daniel Levy knows the situation, trusts that he wants to do that, yada, yada, yada. Next question. Going forward, how do you change things at Spurs so it's not the same story as those before you? He said, it's important now. I'm a realistic person, and now for me the most important thing is the present. We have to try to face the present and not look forward too much. In the present, we have to finish this season. There is a season to finish, and we have to finish the season in the best way possible. We're working very hard, and we deserve much more. The players at the club, especially our fans, deserve more than this. We try to do our best to make them happy. Now it's important to be focused. We're working well, and we've started to go in the right direction despite positive or negative results. So what he's talking about there is the culture of the dressing room, the way they're working in training, buying into his ideas. I think now there is more clarified in the prospect. Also for the future, there's more clarification. The important thing now is to clean the situation and then to continue to build. He was asked about Kulusevski because he finished the game at right wing back and asked if he could play there again. He said, "We finished the game with Kulusevski and also Steven Bergwijn as wing-backs. We finished with an offensive solution because Steven Bergwijn is a number 10, is a striker, but at the same time, I think he can do the last 15, 20 minutes, especially if we want a solution in 1v1 on one side or on the other side. Kulusevski is another player who can play in this role and give us quality and can be also a good solution for us in this position. I think he's playing good games and he's totally involved in our idea together with Bentancur, and I'm very happy for what I'm seeing by these two players." Are you struggling with not having much time to prepare for Leeds? Obviously, when we beat Manchester City, we had the full week to prepare. For sure, when we have more days to prepare the game, it's better because we have more time to prepare, and also physically we have more time to recover. So again, that's another little excuse, and a valid one, as to why the Burnley game, we may have had some struggles. We don't have as much time to recover, and that would have been a big task for the players. It went to the 97th minute against Manchester City. Quite a lot of them players had to play the full game. They put everything out there. We didn't have the ball, and when you don't have the ball in a game, you have to work harder. So that would have been more tiring. So I get there are, some reasons as to why the Burnley game was more difficult, but look, we still know we should have beat them. But I think physically my time is working very well. We are good physically. The schedule is very busy, but we have to be ready to face this schedule. Then he was asked, how do you find more stability? I think I repeated the concept that I said in the past. If you remember, in the past I said that maybe the biggest problem for Tottenham was to have this situation up and down, up and down, up and down. If you want to be competitive, if you want to fight for something important, if you want other teams to consider you a strong team, you have to show stability. It means that if you play against the first team at the top of the table, i.e. Man City, or you play against the last team at the bottom of the table, Norwich, you have to play in the same way, with the same mentality, the same nasty. And that is something that Mourinho touched on a lot in his tenure at Spurs. We have to be more nasty, aggressive. And so he's not the first manager to allude to this. With the same focus, with the same intention. When you reach this type of level, you are ready to fight. You are ready to fight. Before that, you have to be used to go up and down like many, many teams. But when you are in this way, it means you are in a medium spot. Okay, so what we're essentially taking from that last paragraph or little monologue that he was talking about there is Tottenham at the moment are having to find ways to play against different teams. So against Manchester City, we had to accept that we were going to sit back and then have to explode onto them on the counter-attacks and expose the space they leave them behind. With Burnley, our situation would have been we have to play on the front foot, find a way to break them down, but also we need to be solid defensively to worry about them hitting us on the break. And what Conte's trying to say is when you're a top side, you don't have to adapt the way you play. The team coming to you should have to adapt. And we're in a scenario at the moment where, teams don't fear us at the end of the day. They do not fear playing Tottenham, apart from maybe Manchester City, because we have such a good record against them at the moment. But teams aren't having to really adapt to us because, we're not in a moment of belief. We don't control all of our games. And they've seen that we've tried to adapt our tactics against other teams. We may play the same formation, but we may change players. We will change the midfield up slightly. We will have, situations in a game where when we went down against Wolves, we took off Ryan Sessegnon, a more attacking wing back, and allowed, we changed the formation and had to go to the back four and then left Ben Davies out there because he's more defensively rigid, which didn't help us in an attacking sense, really. So we are adapting our tactics to suit how other teams are playing. And that is not an elite mentality. You need to have your way of playing and expect teams around you to adapt. And that's what he's alluding to there, that for us to go on to the next level, we need to find our style, implement it, make teams fear us, and don't change for them. But yeah, that's the situation. Going back to the actual Leeds game, it still will be difficult. I know they're in a tough spot at the moment, but they've shown already that they can still score goals. They're very dangerous. They although they're not in the same position they were last season, and basically their situation was, we will outrun every team we come up against, and that's not actually been the case this season. They've had a lot of injuries as well. I know Bamford has had a very injury-riddled season. Calvin Phillips has been in and out as well. There's been problems where Bielsa's not been using Rafinha to his full capabilities. He's left him on the bench in a few games, which I think is crazy because, in my opinion, he's their best player. But look, they've got their injury problems, so they are weakened. They are coming to this game in a bad run of form. However, our confidence is a bit low, and we're playing away from home. So expect a tough game. I do think we will come out on the other side with a reaction after this, because it was so emotional during the week and it's been very up and down. The fans have really shown how they feel about everything. So expect a gritty game. I wouldn't expect us to go out and play anything like we did against Burnley, because after this there has to be a reaction. And if there's not, I think we're in for a very, very disappointing end to the season. But yeah, they've got their problems, Leeds. They will still go at us. They will make it difficult. But we've definitely got the quality to hit them. Bentancur being out is a little bit of a worry. Although I would say, I think the last 2 times that we've beat Leeds, Harry Winks has actually been in the squad. And I think he benefits from the way that Leeds play, because they are so in your face and all over the place, and that they do leave a lot of gaps. And Winks is a decent passer of the ball, so he will identify those gaps. And I actually think, he's never afraid to go. I mean, a lot of us moan that he goes sideways and backwards a lot, but because he's willing to go forward, sideways and backwards, whereas Bentancur, on the other hand, could have struggled against Leeds, because he's very much a guy that will take risks deep in our half to recycle the ball and move it out, which means with a high pressing team like Leeds and the energy they've got, they probably would have put him under a lot of pressure, latched onto a lot of those balls, and we could have been put in dangerous positions. Whereas Winksy has got that, he's got that moment in him where he's like, he will try and unlock a pass, but a lot of the time he will be sensible, recycle the ball and try and keep us in possession. So I would expect that the reason he does well against them is because they'll come onto him, he won't panic, he'll just turn around, he'll lay it back to someone, move into the next pocket of space, and he'll keep us possession, which against Leeds you need a lot of possession. I think you need to let them run themselves all over the place into the ground, because they've got good fitness levels, but the more you let them run, the more spaces appear, because you're dragging the players about, and that's the way you've got to play against them. I think you need to move the ball quickly. You don't necessarily have to move it forwards, but you just have to keep their players moving about, and as they keep shifting, the gaps then happen, and then someone like Sonny, someone like Kulusevski, they've got the space to break into and hit Leeds. So it'll be an interesting game, and I'm just disappointed that it's been a pretty poor midweek after we were on such a high after the Manchester City game. But thank you for sticking around. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. It is really important for me. I would love this channel to grow so much more. I've really enjoyed doing it. I've had some fabulous support from the beginning. Those of you that have been here from the beginning, you know exactly who you are. You comment all the time on the videos. And I'm really happy that we've got a nice, stable fan base on here. I think I'm very lucky to have the people subscribe to this channel. So if you've got friends that are Spurs fans, mention it to them, share the links with them or something. I don't know. Let's just help it grow. I'm not going to preach too much. Don't forget to support it with a like. Leave your comments below, as you always do. We've had some good conversation over the last, sort of like 10 hours or whatever it's been. So thank you very much. Take care. And until tomorrow, fingers crossed, come on you Spurs.